I'm a psychologist by background. I work mainly with tech companies to help them understand consumer behavior, so that, because as consumers we're contradictory. So understanding the data we leave behind and what it means is valuable. So that's basically what I do. I work with startups and help them apply insights from psychology to their business. I'll give it, one of the difficulties being a psychologist in business is everything is obvious afterwards, but nobody gets it right before. So if I give a little example that just illustrates this. In 2012, before the Olympics in London, about a year before, the government and the police were very worried about professional pickpockets coming to the country, because there'd be lots of strangers in unfamiliar things. So they put up lots of signs in the crime hotspots that they knew from crime figures.
Danger spots,
Well, the danger spot. And they said, beware pickpockets active in this area. And when they did that, pickpocketing in those areas increased. Now, everybody thinks, how can that happen? When I give you the explanation, you think, that's obvious.
Yes.
But nobody
Thought
got it right before. What happened is, when people see that sign, think about yourself now. You see that sign. Automatically, the first thing you do without thinking is you check where your wallet or your purse is. If you're a professional pickpocket, the most valuable piece of information you can have is where does this person keep their purse or wallet? Yeah?
Interesting.
So the pickpockets learn
Obviously.
that they could be more efficient if they went to these high-risk areas where people were now concerned about crime.
Interesting. You know, I'm so privileged to be able to have these kind of conversations with you. And obviously, because we're on camera, some of them I'm going to act like I haven't heard them before. But I mean, I love having these conversations with you, Alan. There was a point I wanted to bring up now that we tend to speak about a lot. Maybe I'll remember shortly. Tell me about, you know, the psyche of an entrepreneur. I know there's a session happening at 1 o'clock, and I'm quite interested in what they're going to cover. Can you tell us a little bit about the psyche, the general psyche of an entrepreneur? And don't just speak to South Africa, but touch, I know you've been on the African continent for many years and around the world. Can you speak to us about that?
You're going to get me in trouble now.
Of course, that's what we do.
I'm going to go to those 2 meetings today to hear what they say.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm really skeptical because I think this idea of an entrepreneurial mindset is rubbish. I think it's like saying a gardener mindset or a driver's mindset. As individuals, we vary a great deal. I think in many ways, if I talk about entrepreneurship rather than entrepreneurs, so we don't think about the people, we think about the activity. And many of them are contextual, they're responses to circumstances. So if you think here in South Africa, for example, you've got a lot of people who come in from Zimbabwe because of the pressures there. And the people who are never entrepreneurs in Zimbabwe are having to be entrepreneurs here in South Africa. So they're finding out. This is true with immigrants globally. If I look in my country, way before you were born, but when I was around, Idi Amin threw out lots of Asians from Uganda. They all came to Britain. Lots of them have produced a huge amount of economic value for my country. Many of them did not see themselves as entrepreneurs before they left their home. But they had to go into their entrepreneurial side. So I'm very skeptical about this bit, because the other bit is that's often forgotten, is what about the people who have been entrepreneurs and everything, it's just that they haven't succeeded. But we don't get those stats. So you get a survivor bias in what we're thinking about entrepreneurship. So I'm just thinking from an academic methodological point of view, first, I don't know how you really study the entrepreneurial mindset. You know, when I look at Entrepreneur magazine, you're going to get me in trouble again.
Go ahead.
But in South Africa, you've got this hero idea of an entrepreneur, that somehow it's their destiny. That's complete rubbish. You know, in this sense, destiny is a meaningless idea. You know, life is what you make it based on the decisions you make, even when you don't realize you're making them. So, I think it comes in all shapes and sizes. And I don't even know, though, even if you say there is this mindset, so what?
I guess it's in contextualizing the question, you know? And we're talking about this because, you know, is there such a thing? You know, and thank you for that answer.
So very diplomatic.
I try. So when I was born in 1979, you made you had written down one of your goals, which was
well,
tell us about
maybe
that.
my bucket list.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. I was very lucky when I was 26 years old to have a bad car accident. You see, now most people don't think about that as a good thing.
True.
It was one of the best things that happened in my life.
And we've touched on what it would have been called here, witchcraft or whatever the case may be.
Or
But
destiny,
anyway,
or whatever.
we'll talk about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So it sounds like a cliche, but when I was in the hospital, still got the scar here on the skull. It made me realise that the gap between life and death really is. But it's something we all know, but we don't really experience it.
Yeah.
So before they became trendy, because this is this is 78.
Yeah.
So I was in the hospital and I thought, okay, Alan, what do you want to do with your life? You've only got one shot at it. This is not a rehearsal. What do you want your life to be? So I made a long list. It was too long. So I cut it down to 100 things. So I could do 2 a year for 50 years.
Nice.
All right?
Yeah.
And so the idea was to thought, well, what do I want to do in the natural world? Okay, because I like the bush. It's why I live next to Kruvia now.
Yeah.
What are the cities I really want to visit? Because a really good city is where people are at their best. You see the great architecture. There's a vibe about a place like Cape Town maybe, or New York, or London, or Paris. Those sorts of things. And then what are the great experiences like the Blue Train, or seeing a Shakespeare play in a theatre that Shakespeare would recognise. So there were these things, making love to a woman I thought who was beyond my reach. That was one of the things on the list.
Yeah.
It's a very guy thing.
I always love your honesty.
Yeah, I've just destroyed my reputation, whatever it was, in just one interview. But life's too short to worry about these things.
True.
So I've done 73 of the 100 now.
Nice.
One of them was to live next to a game reserve in Africa. And what's good about this, because I know what I wanted to do with my life, I haven't really wasted any time. I've only spent time on things that I know matter to me. I'm not saying it's a formula for other people. They have to work out their own bucket list.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised how many people just go through life drifting.
Yeah.
And I would say also, and this is in business and in life, we regret the things we have not done.
Yeah.
We don't regret the things we have done. And I think this is a culture that's a bit risk averse. There's lots of rules in Africa about what you should do, particularly as a woman.
Yeah.
People have got good intentions. Parents have got good intentions. Go and get a job, with the government. Don't follow your dream.
Yeah. Bullshit.
Dreams are who we are.
Yeah.
We are our dreams.
Yeah. We don't really have a lot of time, and we've had so many interesting conversations. I'd like you to touch on, the trust currency. We talk a lot about trust in this country or continent.
One of the things I've been very surprised at here, that hasn't come up, is the UN actually did a study on economic resilience, looking at how economies and cultures bounce back from economic shocks. And Africa doesn't score high there. One of the things they found is the biggest predictor is whether you're in a high trust or a low trust culture.
Yeah.
And Africa generally is a low trust culture. So that's one reason why crowdfunding doesn't work too well here. People are smart here. People are hard-working here. But if you don't trust other people, we're a social species. And if I can link to that, one of the hats I'm wearing in this thing is a potential investor. But I don't want to invest in a small business. I want to invest in the early stage of a big business.
Yeah.
Now, they may start out small. If I can use a Kruger example, you could find 2 small cats next to the road. One could be a lion cub, 1 day old, because the mother's been killed or something. And another could be a cat from Komati Port. So they're both 1 day old cats. But actually, one is the early stage of a lion.
True.
The other's just a cat.
Exactly.
All right?
Yeah.
I want to invest in the lion.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is if we think small business, we keep the business small.
Yeah.
And words matter here.
Yeah.
I was talking to one of the ladies here, who said she's doing furniture. And I thought that was interesting because it reminded me of a thing by Charles Revlon, who's the cosmetics guy, French guy. And he said, actually, in our factories we make lipstick, but in our shops we sell dreams. So if you look at some of the African furniture here, which is made out of African hardwood, and it's kind of got that safari aspect to it. People, when they buy those, they're not buying furniture, they're buying Africa.
Buying the African experience.
And I think lots of African folks here, because imagination isn't actually rewarded in lots of the cultures here, practicality is rewarded, but not dreamers. People often don't understand. They think too much about the product and not enough about the benefits.
Thank you. one last point.
Sure.
As hard as this is for me to be able to cut short this interesting conversation, tell us about the book that you are writing that I think I may be part of.
Yeah, well, you started it, so everything is going to be good in this book is down to me. And everything we get wrong, that's your fault. I just want that to go on the record, and I don't want to edit it out, okay? I was talking about I want to invest here.
Yeah.
But there are things I know I don't know. But when I've looked at all the books on entrepreneurship or things, there's nothing about entrepreneurship in South Africa.
Yeah.
And I know it is different to entrepreneurship in the UK because of this low trust culture compared to other things.
Yeah.
So as I can't find the book, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to write the book that I really wanted to read myself. I'm going to leave these as little sound bites. It introduces the rule of 5,
Yeah.
which we've got time I can explain, otherwise buy the book. It is the
If
idea.
you want, you can touch on it and expand.
Okay, let me be very clear. So I'm here as an an investor.
Yeah.
You can be there with your great idea, your great PowerPoint presentation and everything. If you're the person, you're the business, I'm not going to invest in you, because if you're run over by a taxi tomorrow, I lose my money.
Yeah.
If there's 2 of you running a business, that's about like a married couple. If you start arguing with each other, which you will if there's 2 of you, the business suffers. I don't want to invest in that either. If there's 3 of you, it's like a soap opera on the TV. On Monday, A and B is against C.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, C and A are against B.
Yeah.
Okay, so the business suffers. If there's 4 of you, that's no good either, because it's just 2 times 2. So I want a minimum of 5 people. If there's 5 of you, so if you've got 4 friends, or 4 people you respect, or who you trust,
Yes.
and it doesn't matter whether it's a digital business or restaurant, and the 5 of you have a shared dream. If there's the 5 of you, the business has now got the bandwidth in terms of capabilities and networks and contacts to be doomed to success. Now I'm interested in investing.
Yeah. Beautiful. And this is the kind of content we can look forward to having in the book.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And I also promise to those of you who want to buy it, there will be no pictures of myself. So you've got no excuses.
Perfect. In closing, any one piece of advice for entrepreneurs?
There's a great quote by George Bernard Shaw. I wish I thought of this. Maybe one day I will.
Yeah.
But until I do, I'll use his words. The short version is, progress depends on unreasonable people. But what he actually said was, the reasonable man or woman adapts to the world around them.
Yes.
The unreasonable person makes the world adapt to them.
Yeah.
And therefore progress depends on unreasonable people. So I'd say to entrepreneurs or anybody, if you want to make the world a better place, get in touch with your unreasonable side and make it work for you.
Nice. Alan, thank you very much. It's
Thank you,
always a
KK.
pleasure. Yeah.
It's always a pleasure.
See you around.
You will.
Yeah, I'll be following you around.
And I look forward to seeing
I
how
wanna
different the edited version is to what we actually
Oh, it
discussed.
probably isn't. It's probably
That's
not
okay.
going to be that much, because this was supposed to be, casual conversation between 2 friends. Yeah?
Well, I didn't know until 2 minutes ago that I was going to be doing this, so you've
That's
done a
how
good
we
job
roll.
here.
That's how we roll. Thank you.
Cool, man.
Thanks, Alan. All right. Cheers.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.